In this video, we're going to cover a dynamic series of flexibility for our hips, primarily here around the ball and socket joint down through the thighs, but we'll also get some stretches down all the way to the heels and the feet for the lower body total. We're going to start with that chair in front of us in a high knee position. So not only are we challenging and developing dynamic range of motion, we're also developing a lot of stability, strength, balance, and coordination here, especially in these further ranges of motion. The first exercise is a simple thrust forward through that front knee. The primary thing that I'm wanting you to stretch here and look for an angle that develops a stretch is the angle at the ankle. Having the toes closest to the shin that you can, using your hands on either your thigh or on the chair might help. We're holding it for about 3 seconds or 5 seconds, and we're coming right back out of it, and we're going to do it again. We're going to go in and out of this stretch here. Hopefully you're feeling this stretch. You can find it through that ankle, backside of the calf, deep in the calf and close to the Achilles tendon. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. We'll do about 5 of those, pushing that foot forward, putting a lot of pressure on the forefoot so that we can get that knee out in front, but keeping that heel down. That's the biggest key to getting that stretch, is keeping that heel down. We're going to do 2 more, and I will touch on, yes, we are getting a thigh stretch here. It's definitely helping to stretch out our high knee position through the hips, maybe the groin, the butt on this side that's loaded up, or the thigh over here. Last one of these, push that knee into it pretty tight. Try to get that ankle into a high load of the toes toward the shin, and maybe a stretch in the back there. It's sometimes pretty hard to feel that stretch if you've never done it before. That's called the soleus muscle. I'm going to go to side B. Get ready. 5 thrusts forward. You don't need to be standing too far back from the chair here. You can see I'm pretty close to it, just enough that I can get that knee pushing forward, developing that stretch in the lower leg, as well as a little bit of stretch through my hips. Repetition 1, here we go. Let's count it out. 5, 4. I even pull my toes up and pull those front toes up, and that's really actively helping to elongate those tissues coming across the bottom of the foot and into the back of the leg. Pull the toes up, put the pressure through the foot, knee goes forward. Make sure you're keeping some good engagement of your core. And we're holding these for 5 seconds and then coming right back out of them. Got 2 more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The reason I mention your core is because I do not want you pushing through your back, hyperextending your lower back. You gotta be in that good pelvic tilt. Tuck the tailbone, engage the core. Last one. 5, 4, 3, 2. And the final thing you may feel, if you're keeping that back heel connected, is a little stretch in the calf on the backside as well. That's exercise A. Exercise B in this series, or exercise 2 in this series, is going to be a rotational exercise. So I'm going to show you from the front. We're going to go back to that high knee load. I'm going to do 3 and 3. 3 free rotations where I'm turning my opposite side hand of the leg that's up toward that midline and toward that leg that's up as much as I need to. It's not a super hard squeeze. I don't need you to cramp up anywhere. Just move through the range of motion that you can achieve. You should start to feel some rotation through your rib cage, through the soft tissues in your belly, your side, and your back. Now, I'm going to move that into more of a assisted rotation, where I'm going to put my hands on my hip and on my knee, and I'm going to turn and pull lightly into that stretch. Should feel that come all the way down the thigh, and we'll release back to center. Turn and pull, comes down the thigh and goes into the lower back. That's another area you'll commonly feel it there. That upper butt, or side hip, is very much connected to the high butt, lower back area, and that was number 3. So let's switch sides here. We'll do the same thing on side B. Find your balance. Like I said, the further we get into this series, the more those hips are working. We're going to start with the free twist. So rotation in this manner is much more active. We're having to use the tissues that create that rotational movement in a neuromotor connection saying, do your work. Start to fire that up. Suck and tuck. Remember, every time we got to re-engage if we're starting to become a little bit lackadaisical in that hip. Same thing. One hip on the hip bone, or one hand on the hip bone, opposite side hand on the knee. And now we're more of a passive stretch or passive movement in that rotation. Should be holding that for about 5 seconds. Maybe 3 to 5 seconds is good. This dynamic range of motion is really optimal for a warm-up, for something like a hike, walk, a long day in the garden, or definitely a warm-up for your workout routine. I think that was number 3 there. We're going to do the opposite direction now and turn away from that leg loaded up to stretch out the groin. To do so, I'm going to start with my toes pointed straight into the back of the chair of the leg that's loaded. I'm going to turn my other toes 90 degrees away from that line of load through those first set of toes. That already may develop a pretty big groin stretch. If you notice your knee dips in as you turn away, you're probably pretty tight through here, and all you're going to need to do is give it a little push. If you have good mobility through that groin, the second thing I want you to think about is standing up big and tall through your pelvis as you rotate away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you're just going to release out of it. You don't have to rotate all the way back. You're just allowing that tension to relax. And we do it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again. 5. Keep going. 4, 3, 2, 1. From this view, you'll see how I kind of sit back when I relax and stand up tall, driving my hips into it. 4, 3, 2, 1. And last one. 5. Using that hand as much as you need to, as much or as little as you need to get that high groin stretch right through that thigh. Same thing, other side. Setting up, 90-degree angle. Heels are pretty much right in line here. 90 degrees turning away. This side is my tighter side. I've been dealing with a tight adductor, that's the inner thigh, or groin muscle, something maybe even in my hamstrings on the groin here for a while now. So I'm not gonna push this one quite as intensely. And what would be really good is to get a couple extra repetitions in on your tighter side so that you can start to address that muscle imbalance right then and there and make a habit of that. So over time, we're starting to balance things out from side to side, front to back. Approximately 5-second holds here. And we can rest. Moving on into our quadricep stretch. So now you're gonna load that chair behind you, or have that chair behind you loading your foot up on to the chair in knee flexion. However, this one, because it's a lot more risky on the knees and the lower back, I would recommend, if you've never done it or you haven't done it for a while, or you have very tight quadriceps and hip flexors, or chronic back pain, whatever, any extra consideration, I would use my hand to stabilize on this one. Let's start with that knee semi out in front of the other thigh. That's going to be where most people start this, right here. That's fine, but we got to slowly inch our way trying to achieve parallel thighs. Maybe that's not possible today, but it is a long-term goal. We're going to be developing that ideal position. From the side view, you see I'm almost stacked right here, and what I'm going to do is push my hips forward, standing up tall, tightening especially my lower abdomen right here at the pubis into the belly button. This abdomen has to stay tight, otherwise you're just going to feel this in that upper butt, lower back. We've got to push through the pelvis like a hip thruster, and that's where we get this stretch through the quadricep. Hold it, 3, 2, 1, release back, push through, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more from this angle, and I'll show you what it looks like from the front. The toes can also be loaded in if you want your heel a little higher, if you're a little bit more flexible. Load the toes in, push forward, tighten the core, feel a stretch somewhere in the front of that thigh, maybe up high, maybe in the middle, maybe down low. You will feel some pressure in your kneecap a little bit because that quadricep tendon or your patellar tendon crosses over that kneecap, creating a little tension. Let me show you this same side. Begin, push forward. I know you were waiting for me there. We're showing you just that these knees are pretty darn close together. Most people are going to start with a flare. It's okay, but we have to start to develop pliability, mobility through the lateral hip so that we can achieve that good positioning. Side B. 5-second holds from a stable position. I'm going to start with my toes pointed behind me and see if I need a little extra on this side. Here we go. Stand up tall. Line those thighs up best you can. Activate the core best you can. 2, 1. Release. You got to maintain pelvic tilt. If you haven't practiced your pelvic tilt or you're having trouble trying to figure out what that means, go back to my earlier postural stance series. We talk a lot about how this pelvis is a bucket. Release, stand up tall. And in that bucket, I think I put my toes down on the third one, so let's go ahead. If you'd like to put those toes into it, push forward. That bucket can't be spilling things out the front. That's what you're going to end up pinching your lower back with. Got to be a neutral position of that bucket. And when I do that, I feel a lot more pressure in my patellar tendon coming across that kneecap. Release. That was longer than 5 seconds, I know. But it's really, really important. In order to lengthen the front side, we have to strengthen and activate the back side. But compensation patterns, because this is so tight, release. We're going to do 2 more. Push and hold. Actually, I think this is number 5. Last one. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Because most of us have some pressure or issues here, dominant muscle group 4 quadriceps, only 3 hamstrings, and a lot of fascia along the side of that thigh. That one creates a lot of compensation through the back. If you're feeling your back in pain, I would eliminate that for now. Check out how to stretch out your quads in one of my flexibility programs and move forward from there. Final exercise here is your hamstring stretch. Now there's actually 2 versions of this in the same position, just with a slight variation. So I'm going to teach you both. We're going to do 3 of each. The first version, we're lining up at a pretty narrow base. My heel is right behind my other foot's toe. From there, I'm going to pull my toes up and shift all my weight into this off side. So the side that I'm not necessarily doing the stretch on has most of the weight, and then I'm hinging. Popping my butt back, leaving it high, and using this front leg kind of like a kickstand, propped up on the floor through the heel. Oh boy, does that get to the hamstring, back here through thigh, and all the way into the knee. All the way down into the calf maybe, depending on how much you like the pain and you're pulling those toes up. Let's come up and continue. Hinging back, butt goes behind the lateral midline, spine stays in line. And we push forward, standing up all the way, bringing our hips back underneath us, back, and forward. Okay, that was 3 on that one. I want you to put your toe down, let the foot rest on the ground, and soften both knees now. Instead of having that knee rigid, we're softening both knees. This time you're going to shift a little bit more weight into the front leg. And you should feel that a little bit different in that hamstring. Still spine in line. We may get lower. You noticed I got a little lower there. What that tells me is my calves are tight. And that's the same problem most of us deal with. Tight calves. And believe it or not, most of us deal with long, weaker hamstrings. Most people think they have tight hamstrings, but they're actually long hamstrings. So let's find that thigh stretch 6 times. 1 with the straight leg knee and the toes pulled up, shifting the weight back. 1 with the toes flat, softly bent knee, and shifting the weight a little bit forward. Same thing other side. Finish it up today here, or for this video here. Toes pulled up, butt goes back. Shoulder blades have to stay back. Everything in your hinge has to remain in perfect posture and position in order to get the best hamstring stretch that we can here. That happens by way of letting that booty pop, that pelvic tilt anteriorly, but keeping the belly engaged so that we don't hyperextend through the back. That was your 3 with the toe pulled up. And finally, flatten that foot, lean a little bit more weight into that front leg, and find the lengthening through a bit more of the belly of the muscle in that hamstring, center of the thigh. You may feel it still a little bit behind the knee, but you also may feel it a little bit up toward the butt. And inevitably, you're going to feel your core engaging here. There's a lot of spine extensors engagement to maintain good erect spine and good postural position. That's what we need. Now we're primed up, ready to go. Those hips feeling loosey-goosey, like you can take on the world.